with something like Game of Thrones, where both Corey and Blake had seen it, and it was my first time watching, it almost felt like a test in the post discussion of every episode. Like, what happened this episode? Did you know it was this, and that? I mean, it helped to take notes during that. That was like the only series I've taken notes on. But it almost like, oh man, I have to notice these things or else it's not going to be a good reaction. The pressure's all on me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse podcast, brought to you by Passionfruit. I'm joined today by maybe the largest collective we've sort of had on the show in terms of their roster of people. It is the Raggedy Pack, Igli and Corey. Thank you guys, thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for inviting us.
Unfortunately, the full roster couldn't make it, but we got two.
I appreciate any amount coming in because I know you guys have a lot to manage on a sort of week-to-week basis, so I'm glad to have you guys here at least. Yeah, I've been following your work for a while now. I'll say, you know, there are two specific things that put me on your radar, or for you on my radar recently, which was your American Horror Story reactions, which my girlfriend is just a big fan of. So when she saw that, she was like, you should interview these guys, just full out. Just she wanted to know more about that. And also your Midnight Mass reactions, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. And so I was a big fan when you guys started covering that. And that was the point I was like, okay, yes, I definitely want to talk to these guys. Just because anyone who's sort of covering that show, which is very underrated, deserves a spot. In my opinion,
it's a good show.
Yeah, it's one of the best shows I think I've ever seen. So you know, once I got through that, I just wanted to have you on. I know the channel's, you know, gone through an evolution over the years, just in terms of like, you know, the people, the sort of presentation of it. So there's a big story to tell. Even this year was a big year for you guys. So I wanted to go over that whole thing. Start at the beginning that we always usually do. We go to even before that. Just as a collective, as a group of friends, how did you all meet? What's the story there?
Ooh, it goes way
You want
back.
this one, Igli?
I mean, you probably can tell it better than I. I can give you a rough outline. But basically, it all originated on Xbox. We had a mutual friend who we kind of all collectively met through because obviously, Corey and I, we don't live in the same state. So it just originated from that. It's been about 10 years. Like, this was back when we were all in high school. And it's just a friendship that's kind of gone through rough patches, but we've always kept in contact with each other, and channel came out of it. We played a lot of games with each other, spent a lot of time hanging out with each other. So I guess through that we just became very comfortable, and yeah, we're here.
Yeah. What year would you say that sort of started?
2012, 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been a while. Yeah. How did that friendship develop, you know, over like the pandemic when that hit and like everyone sort of shifted to just online connectivity in general, and it's like, you know, that was the sort of the way people were staying sane by talking to each other.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point for me, I was playing a lot of video games in the Discord with the boys, and after a while, I think it was Kojo and Blake started reactions on the channel. They started reacting to Bad Batch, and then they asked to have me on to do a playthrough of Spider-Man. Then we tried out some more series with Attack on Titan, Squid Game, and Loki. Coming out of the pandemic, we pretty much got right into the channel after that. Just during the whole pandemic, we were gaming together. It was a really fun time for us.
Right. And yeah, you mentioned Blake and Kojo starting off the channel with Bad Batch. Do you know, just from their experience, do you know like if the channel was something that, you know, they had been talking about, mulling over? Was it sort of like a mutual idea that they came up with, or like that anyone sort of spearheaded?
So this was probably not long after we met, maybe a year or two after. I think it was Kojo who brought up the prospect of having a YouTube channel together, but there wasn't really any more thought put into it after that until within the past few years, probably around 2021, where Kojo said, we should make a reaction channel. And he explained reaction videos to us and how he loves them so much. And I was thinking about it, and I didn't really get it until I thought about it from a gaming perspective. because I beat a lot of video games, but I can't play those games again for the first time. So I like to watch other people play through my favorite games. And I realize it's the same thing with TV shows and movies. People, for them to get that first time watching experience, they do it vicariously through friends, through families, through reactors. So that's really cool. And I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's usually the sort of gateway drug of what that what that format is like, yeah, just trying to relive that experience that you had watching it for the first time with someone else. Yeah, when you I guess when you guys got brought in, because again it was Kojo and Blake at first, did they had to sort of break down just the format of how it works, sort of like even just the technical setup of getting started for you guys?
Yeah, to begin with, like just getting used to talking in front of the camera for that long. I don't know about you, Igli, but I was always really camera shy.
I'm still camera shy. I'm not gonna lie. It takes me a while to get settled in, but I think I've developed over the years.
Were there any significant learning curves you had for that aspect, for the presentational aspect of just sort of being, on and sort of like engaged with the material in a presentational way?
I think it's a balancing act between, like, if there's 4 of us on a reaction, it can become very talkative, but you don't want to talk over what you're reacting to. People are going to get mad, you're going to miss plot points, and it becomes a mess. So it become like you have to balance out saying what you want to say in a concise manner, and like kind of knowing intuitively like when to like have conversations die down during important segments. And some stuff because of just how it is, it's constantly moving, it's going to get lost. You might not be able to say what you want to say. I mean, you got the post discussion for that as well. So making mental notes of what you want to talk about after is something to consider as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a rhythm to it. Trying to just make sure that you can get your thoughts in when you can without overrunning the show or each other. It's a definitely a learning curve. I think I found a lot of people struggle with that first. And once you got the flow of it, do you guys recall any point where, at least maybe through Blake and Kojo, but also you guys being involved as well, where you felt like, oh, this is something that we're not just trying out, we want to sort of stay committed to and sort of keep going?
Yeah, I think around the point that we started reacting to Book of Boba Fett, episode 5 or 6 of that did really well on the channel. We gained a bunch of subscribers. I think that's the one that helped us hit 1,000. So that was very motivating, and we wanted to keep it going after that.
Yeah. When you hit that point though, do you recall when like the feedback of, say, like the audience or anything, sort of like, because audience engagement is such an important part of reaction channels in terms of like them knowing you knowing them, and sort of like how that guides you into the material. Did you find any point where like, okay, this is sort of the audience, what the audience is looking for from us and what they sort of like what we're doing?
Yes. So it was last year in October, we started reacting to horror movies, and those did really well on the channel. Scream, Conjuring, Alien. And after Scream finished, since Scream 5 and 6, they both have Jenna Ortega in them, we asked our audience if they would like us to watch Wednesday because she stars in that, and they said yes. And then after Wednesday ended, we put out a poll for what we should watch next, and that's actually how we got into the Flaniverse and Haunting of Hill House. And it was so good, we're like, we're going to watch these all. So we watched Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, and we finished Fall of the House of Usher, but it's going up on the channel weekly now. So I think that's the point where we started getting more involved with our audience, and now they let us know what they want us to watch. And some things we choose ourselves as well to try to maintain a balance.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have, I think, is that escalating, roster of things. Like, we watch one thing, it opens up another one. And something I've always found interesting with your videos is that it's not always a completely blind watch. Like, sometimes one person will have seen it, they're rewatching for the first time after a long time, they'll see in like 1 or 2 episodes, and so there is that sort of like different tiers of experience going into it, and you have all sort of rotated those positions from show to show. I guess how do those experiences differ, if you're going to the show again for a rewatch, but now it's on camera for the first time versus like, say, a blind reaction, and just like what that is for yourself going into it?
You want me for this one, Igli, since I watched Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad for the second time?
I mean, I think we both have like unique takes of it. I've been on both sides of the fence. I will say watching something with someone else, like reacting to something that you've seen to, but the other person hasn't, it it's a little bit dicey because you kind of want them to figure things out themselves, but you almost want to like kind of help guide them to the answer. But
Right.
by doing so, it kind of tarnishes the experience. I have made that mistake on a couple of anime we've seen on the channel where I've read like the manga to and have like Corey and Kojo reacting with me. The wheel is turning in their heads. I want them to get to the answer or like make that connection of why this show is so good, but I have to hold myself back. With something like Game of Thrones, where both Corey and Blake had seen it and it was my first time watching, it almost felt like a test in the post discussion of every episode. Like, what happened this episode? Did you know it was this and that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it helped to take notes during that. That was like the only series I've taken notes on. But it was like, oh man, I have to notice these things or else it's not going to be a good reaction. The pressure's all on me. But it just helps you, I guess, grow as well.
Yeah. I know another channel that I'm very close with, the Normies, Surge, who watches it on there. He's a big Lost fan, so I know when they did their Lost reaction, it's one of those things where like he was like, sort of dying to like give them like the Easter eggs and like the clues and tidbits of like what they might be missing on a first time watch. But yeah, it's that, again, that balance of like trying to let the other person have a genuine experience, but also help guide them in the right direction so that way they don't get lost. Because like that's the hard part I think that a lot of commenters have too, is like there's like those threads that some people get stuck on. Like as we were watching, me and my girlfriend were watching your midnight mass reactions, there's a point where, spoilers for the show, when dies for the first time and comes back, you guys were stuck on like, oh, did Beth poison him?
Yeah.
Like, and that was the thing that we struggled with too when we watched it. And so like it took us like several rewatches to realize that's not what happened. And so like it's like one of those things like just as an audience, but also as a participant for yourself, like it's hard to sort of like overlook those things and be like, no, that's not where you need to be focused on. Like you can move on from that. But yeah, once you have like again a good sort of balance of like new experiences with like familiar experiences, you're also diving into say new IPs versus like familiar IPs, like Star Wars, Marvel versus like something like the Flaniverse for the first time, or like even like American Horror Story, Vampire Diaries. How do those experiences differ, like going into a familiar world versus like a completely new world and learning things for the first time?
Going into a completely new world, especially in the early episodes, I feel like I have to be completely focused on everything to kind of figure things out, especially during a reaction where I'm going to be actively talking more, and the boys as well. Something familiar, like I kind of have the gist of what's going on, so I can be more relaxed myself. In the case of Game of Thrones, of course, Igli felt all the pressure.
I would say so. Yeah, I'm going to kind of echo a lot of Corey's thoughts. Like if you're going into something like Star Wars and you're watching other shows in that universe, you kind of have information to pull from. So it's like you can build connections much faster. Going into something completely new is, like Corey said, it's like the first couple episodes are make or break. Do you understand the basis of this world you're experiencing? So it's you have to lock in and focus on the plot points.
And yeah, when you get into say like any new shows that's new for you for the first time, the obvious novelty of that is being able to share your genuine reactions and experience to the audience, and that's a large part of the channel. And for like a channel like yourselves that has a large roster of people, you can sort of move yourselves into positions to like fit that. Say if the show's coming out, a movie, you can like sort of like pick and choose who is best fit for that experience, who wants to be part of it. I guess in terms of scheduling and stuff like that, how do you guys sort of manage that? Just scheduling who's available for what, who's interested in what, also in conjunction with like what is even on the docket of what is available to watch.
Corey, I know you have a lot to say about this.
Oh, I mean you could as well, but I'll say I'm usually available all the time. If I'm not reacting to something or editing something, my other job is at home. So everyone else has a job where they have to commute. Scheduling has been really tough for us, especially this year. And right now on the channel, there is an absence of Kojo, and people are asking, where's Paranormal Activity 4 reaction? And he's been in the process of a move that's like hundreds of miles away to another city, but he's still working his other job outside of Raggedy Pack, where he's required to drive around a lot. So he just hasn't been available. And then Blake at his job, his shift doesn't align well with Igli's shift at his job. So we have a small window during the weekdays where we're able to get things recorded. Then on the weekends, it's a little more open where we kind of have the whole day. Like if we need to do a longer reaction, something like a movie, for example. But it has been tough lately. We're looking forward to the future where maybe we can either go full-time Raggedy Pack or maybe part-time jobs and then just more hours into Raggedy Pack, more hours for reactions and editing, or even getting some help with editing as well so we can react more.
Yeah, because I know Corey, I know Blake helped out with some of the editing workload on some aspects of it, because I know I caught up on your Attack on Titan reactions. I know he did a remaster of that, finale, because he wanted to have a sort of better presentation of it. What was your experience like, I guess, getting into the editing aspect when you joined the channel and sort of like taking on more responsibilities in that regard?
So when I joined the channel, I don't think the editing was really fleshed out yet. It was kind of like a recorded Discord call. I did some research of how other channels did reactions, and together with Kojo, because he's like a Photoshop master, he taught me how to use Photoshop. We came up with a template, and we kind of put something together, started editing videos, and it was just a learning process of, okay, how do we not get copyright claimed? How do we make our videos look better? Like, constantly trying to upgrade.
Yeah, it's been evolution, I think. Yeah, of how it's developed over the years. I've definitely seen that. Again, just with like how Blake re-edited the Attack on Titan thing, and just like how just the graphical elements of like everything on screen has sort of been refined over the years. Mm-hmm. Are there any sort of things that you wish you kind of knew in the beginning that you could have applied back then that you have now at your disposal?
In regards to the presentation of the videos?
Yeah, like editing and stuff like that. It's the technical aspects of things, I guess.
Yeah, I think editing now, we can edit a lot faster than we did back then. We have a lot more tricks, and also we used to just do cuts, but now we kind of get more spicy with it, where we'll do zoom ins on our individual cameras or very specific edits.
And if you don't mind me asking, what platform or service do you use to get those recordings?
OBS.
OBS? Okay, good. Yeah. I'm currently using, for watching this, I'm using Riverside. And yeah, just from an editor standpoint, because I've been an editor for a decade, almost like 2 decades now. I've just found the ease of like doing reaction edits, and also this, just from being able, like you said, to have those zoom ins, to like, it gives you sort of like a new, like, tier of flexibility to sort of move things around and like cover up, seams and stuff like that. So it's very helpful. But for both of you, I wanted to ask, when you have, such a large roster of people to work with, and there's like so many different backgrounds of, film and TV experiences, it becomes, like tricky to like know who is where with what, in terms of like what you can watch, but also it's like the lack of that is sort of what you need to make like a reaction channel flourish, because that's what you want first 6-time experiences. I guess for yourselves, and if you could speak on the behalf of anyone else, what were your sort of general film and TV backgrounds like, prior to the channel? Were you like film and TV buffs, or was this something you sort of got more into for the channel?
Yeah, we both have different answers for this. I think, speaking for myself, I've seen a few TV shows like over the years. Movies, I've definitely been lacking on. So seeing a lot of classics has been eye-opening. A lot of my background tends to fall more towards anime, which the channel has dipped its toes into, had its roots in it, but it's not really what we're doing a lot of right now. So yeah, my background has mainly been anime and manga, not necessarily Western TV shows and movies.
Yeah, I grew up watching a lot of TV shows, especially as a kid, a lot of cartoons, a few movies here and there. But I think around when I reached age 10 and got my first video game console, I just started playing games all the time. That's where I met the rest of the Raggedy Pack. And we get a lot of comments asking or doubting that it's an actual first time reaction for movies, or how have you not seen this? You know, how old are you? You should have seen this. And we were just doing other stuff. I mean, we don't, well, I mean, I kind of live under a rock, but, you know, we were definitely doing other stuff at the time. And it's good that we're able to watch some of these older films and TV shows for the first time, because if we had already seen everything, then, I mean, the reaction channel just wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something I found for a lot of people is just those different life experiences. As I grew up, you know, more into musical theater, grew up more into like, you know, books and so on. And so movies and TVs just wasn't a sort of, you know, media that I was super interested in. You know, Igli, you mentioned, you know, anime being such a big, you know, interest for yourself. Corey, were you also experienced with anime at all prior to the channel? Was it something you learned getting into it?
Yeah, I along with the cartoons when I was a kid, I think the program was called Toonami. They used to air anime and dub like Dragon Ball, Yu-Gi-Oh,
Naruto.
yeah, Naruto, the classics. And then when I was a teenager, getting into more stuff, Attack on Titan, Kuroko no Basket. That one holds a dear place in our heart. So I've seen my fair share, not nearly as much as Igli, but I'm an anime novice.
And Igli, I guess, you know, Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan, like they've been such big, you know, staples for the channel, and such like high experiences. I think those are two, it's like such great modern anime in terms of just like the sort of cinematic experience, for it. Do you have any sort of aspirations or like, you know, like ideas of like how you would like to see, you know, more anime introduced to the channel at some point?
We've definitely been guided by what's been doing well on the channel and what viewers have wanted out of us. So, which is like what Corey touched upon about like a lot of horror movies. That's been like our main forte for the past year, amongst other stuff. But horror as a genre has been like the main driving force. And in the background of things, if we like, we have discussed if we were to do anime on the channel again, we would probably approach it a different way, mainly in regards to like how analytics work. And it's not there are other channels that have found like success doing anime. We've kind of struggled with it, and I think Corey can probably talk about the more analytical aspects of it.
So yeah, with anime for us, I believe the tough thing is that the watch time isn't as high, so it kind of struggles in the algorithm, especially compared to our other content where we're doing hour-long TV shows or movies where the watch time is much higher. So maybe in the future, if we wanted to get into more anime, if we can find the time to do it, we could start another channel dedicated specifically to anime.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah, like, you know, with the collection of, you know, stuff you have on the channel, it's pretty eclectic. You know, you have sort of like big hits like, you know, Game of Thrones, stuff like that. But you also have sort of, I guess, more somewhat esoteric shows like Vampire Diaries, American Horror Story, Bridgerton recently as well. What kind of goes into not just the decisions of putting it on, you know, the channel once it's like decided and, you know, recorded, but just like the sort of inception of it, you know, just like deciding like what's even like a good option to like, you know, consider to put into consideration for like the polls and such.
I think we've been leaving our polls pretty open to the point where we got some feedback to where we should kind of break them down into genres or limit them more, because on one of our more recent polls, the top two options were Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Supernatural, which are both very long shows, and we're already doing Vampire Diaries going into the originals, which is also really long. So our audience, and especially our patrons, said, you know, we rather have you watch shorter series if it's something you're only going to be able to pump out one reaction for per week.
Yeah, and from again like an editing and technical aspect, is that something you'd say you prefer as well? Like, say, like having a sort of shorter sprint of like a mini series, you know, as opposed to like a longer series? Like, do those experiences like have different, you know, just levels of, you know, engagement for yourself?
Yeah, I like both. I think having the shorter series just allows for more flexibility and keeping it fresh. Longer series can be really good as well. But when you hit a hiccup, like if someone's not available to record, then that series has to go on hold for the time being. Where if someone wasn't available for a period of time, but you were starting a new shorter series, then maybe they would just sit out that reaction, and you would have like 3 people on it instead.
Yeah, exactly. And once you have, like say, a show that's going, you're invested in it. And after like a season, I know you recommended, American Horror Story, season 1, and then you finished it and you put up another follow-up video saying like, hey, should we continue it, just based off of like, engagement and interest from the audience. What goes into those considerations in terms of a long-running show, just like finishing it out? Does it in terms of just your personal enjoyment versus like the analytical side of things, and just how do you sort of decide, should we finish this out or should we sort of like like taper it off?
I think the main thing is the audience. Do they want to see us watch it? We're enjoying the show. I guess if it got to a point where it got really bad, that we could be like, okay, we don't want to watch this anymore. But that hasn't happened on the channel yet. Everything we've watched, even if it has a bad episode or so, there's always something good you can find within the series.
But Corey's correct. Like, we haven't reached a point where we disliked a show we were reacting to. Anything we've kept on the channel and have continued with, it's been out of genuine enjoyment. But at the same time, it feels a bit bad to say this, but you do have to like weigh like, is it worth the time and effort? Because editing does take a lot of work to continue with a series if it's not doing well versus kind of replacing it with a different series. Our enjoyment of the show will still be there, and worst comes to worst, we can just watch it on our personal time. But if it's not what our fans want to see, we kind of have to balance their expectations as well. We're trying to find that middle ground of doing what we want to do, like introducing stuff that like we're personally interested in watching, because there's a lot of shows over the past year I've held off personally because with the anticipation that we might eventually do this on the channel. So it's again, like, you have to make those decisions, and it's something we want to kind of introduce a balance of having viewer picked shows versus doing stuff we want, we're interested in doing ourselves. And it's not to say like Vampire Diaries, Bridgerton, American Horror Story are shows we dislike. We've actually found like a lot of enjoyment out of those shows, surprisingly, like beyond our like initial expectations.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's definitely what it is. I mean, just getting into like, again, like you said, weighing the options of, there's the personal experience, watching the show and just like enjoying it versus like what it does for the channel, and just like being able to keep this going and sustainable, for the foreseeable future. Because like, it's like, again, one sort of bad video can like taint sort of like, again, the algorithmic pool of things, and it's hard to sort of come back from that. So you have to like sort of figure out when the best time is to sort of like pull that off if you have to. And you mentioned the aspect of also staving off shows and movies for the sake of like keeping it for the channel. I guess how do you again approach that aspect of like, a new movie comes out, new show comes out, and you're like, I'm really interested in this, but I kind of want to maybe save this for an on-camera reaction.
Yeah, I think it depends, like if it's a movie or a TV show. If it's a movie, you can make the argument that it's a short commitment. Just get one night with the boys, watch it, and if it doesn't fit into the regular schedule of things, make the extra work to get it out in a reasonable time frame. Right. It just depends. Like, I mean, Alien Romulus, we watched that recently. Albeit like maybe like a few weeks after it came out digitally. It wasn't immediately when it dropped. But TV shows are become a longer time commitment, even though they're like shorter to get out weekly. You have to, if it's a 8 or 10 episode TV show, it's a fairly decent commitment to put into the channel where we're currently uploading daily on. It's how do you fit that in? Like, I want to watch Arcane. I want to watch the Fallout TV show. But those are just kind of on the back burner for the time being.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, especially when you kind of want dibs on, like a show, and you're like, well, if it's gonna happen, I want to be there, but I don't want to miss it out, like, so I'm gonna just try and save it for when I can. And you mentioned like horror movies are being such a big success on the channel. The most interesting thing about horror films for me is like people who are big fans of it and who really get into it. That's one of those films, like those genres where it's like really easy to appreciate sort of like the production background of like how things are executed, cinematography and effects and visual effects, practical effects. How has your sort of appreciation for film or like understanding of film evolved over the years with the channel, and I guess now specifically with like the horror run that you guys have been doing?
I think with horror, you want to make it satisfying. I mean, it depends what sort of horror movie it is, whether it's like something like Alien that's full on suspense, versus like Scream, which is like very slashery, or in like an extreme case, Terrifier, which is outright disgusting at moments.
Right.
And I've noticed like, I think there's one piece where like, Corey, you can kind of help me verify this, where a director for a Scream film did some work on a Vampire Diaries like episode.
Kevin Williamson.
Yes. So, but basically like you'll kind of notice like the pacing, the structuring, like this feels familiar. I can't really get into the plot point. It would be too much to like divulge at this moment, but I guess you kind of know, you start to learn patterns. Right. And especially with Quentin Tarantino that we've been diving into, you kind of notice like his, let's say, habit for like dialogue and how characters are written, where there's just a lot of dialogue, unfortunately, a lot of which we have to cut out for the reaction. But
Right.
It's a very dialogue driven, like they're a very dialogue driven films.
Totally. I recently had to do an edit for Django Unchained for that, and there's so much dialogue in that film that's so golden that I just had to like, it felt like sad just cutting that down to try and fit it for like a YouTube algorithm. Now that you have, say, horror under your belt and like so on, are there any other genres, say you're like sort of like, mulling around, like, or like, themes like Tarantino and stuff, like, do you have anything else on the docket that you can maybe share with us that you have planned for the future?
Yeah. So after Tarantino movies, we're planning on hopping into the Twilight films. We know our Vampire Diaries audience really wanted us to watch those, and we haven't revealed this one on the channel yet. But after the Twilight reactions, some things might get moved around, but we're planning for the Hunger Games as well, because we've seen that one in our comments a lot. We would like to eventually get into the comedic genre, lighten enough, especially for Blake. He's really been Raggedy's strongest soldier going through all of those horror movies. So
right. Having again those different tastes of things as part of the channel is such an important aspect of like keeping it fresh and like balancing the dynamics of it. Once you have the understanding of what you prefer, is there like a sort of bias going into, say, like a horror film or like a different type of genre where you're like, oh, like I know for certain like I'm going to enjoy this, and that elevates your reaction, or something that you're a little more questionable about? Just how do you sort of temper your expectations going into a reaction for different types of films?
So I try to treat every movie as its own separate thing and keep an open mind, and try not to be biased in any way, like assuming this movie might not be good or bad. I like when the reaction starts and I start watching the movie, then I kind of figure out if I'm vibing with it or not. Igli, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, I mean, if I'm sitting down to like watch a horror movie versus something more comedic or romantic or lighthearted, like it's a very different like initial vibe. And like also like if it's like at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, it kind of affects my mood of like what I'm coming down like home to watch with the boys. Like if it's, I'm pretty level-headed regardless of what gets watched, but I just kind of have like this kind of feeling of, okay, this is gonna be a good time, based off like the initial genre we're doing, like, or the genre of film or show or watching on that night, and it kind of directs my mood a little bit.
Yeah, that's why I hear from a lot of people is just like horror movies can sort of sour the day if it goes like the wrong way. Like some people have to come down from it and sort of calm down after like a really visceral one. So I know my friend JL from EOM Reacts, like he says he always gets like a dish of ice cream afterwards as like a sort of Pavlovian treat to like treat himself afterwards to get through it. Hey guys, Eric from Passionfruit. Just wanted to thank you for tuning into this episode of Reactorverse. To everyone who's commented on our videos, shared our work, or otherwise supported the channel, we see you, we appreciate you, and we've got a lot of exciting things coming for the creator community at Passionfruit. If you haven't already, the usual stuff on YouTube always helps us. Hitting that like button and subscribing with the bell so you'll be notified when new videos come out. We also have a bi-weekly Passionfruit newsletter that focuses on the creator industry, which you can sign up for through the link in the video description and the pinned comment. Twice a week, you'll get our best stories, as well as exclusive interviews, expert reviews, and the latest resource guides to help you navigate every stage of the creator journey. We've even got a weekend newsletter on the way, with a curated creator spotlight that focuses on the best online content from the people who make it, you. Thanks again for supporting Passionfruit and Reactorverse and helping make your content your business, and giving love to the people who make the web. And this year in particular for the channel has been like, pretty big in terms of just like good and bad experiences. It's been very turbulent. To begin with, though, I know earlier this year, Igli, I'm not sure if you were there, Corey, but you guys were able to meet up for the first time with Blake and Kojo and just like have that first time just seeing each other. I guess what was that like? After years of knowing each other and getting to just like see each other in person. After being through everything together.
So yeah, I will kind of like run through like Corey and Kojo. Matthew and I live in the same city, so we see each other fairly frequently. Corey, I've met on 2 occasions at like conventions for like a weekend. It's been a while though. I want to say it's like been like 6 years,
2016, 17.
It's got to be time soon. Blake though, it was the first time seeing Blake in person. At the airport, I did this bit. Or like I walked up to him and said, "Hey, are you Blake from the Raggedy Pack?" It was kind of cringe. No one's gonna see it. But it just driving around with him, like, because I kind of drove around like for the couple of days we were there, or that he was there, and I don't know. It was fun finally seeing my boy. And the second time we were able to meet because he came into the city for like a weekend for work. I don't know. It's weird because you're not like hearing it's not a disembodied voice in your ears anymore. You're seeing this person in the flesh. It might be a little bit awkward. Might not know how to act, but it's still your boy. I would love a situation in the future where we're all kind of living together in like one house. But that just kind of depends on different factors lining up or different circumstances occurring.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. I mean, just in terms of, again, ease of production, ease of travel and stuff like that, scheduling. I know what you mean. Like when you meet someone for the first time that primarily online, it's almost like a middle ground between like starstruck. It's like you feel like I get this person. It's weird to know this person as on a personal level and also see them in person now. It's a very surreal experience. But then on the flip side of that, this year, there was just a huge bump. The hurdle on the channel when the Hurricane Helene hit, and Corey, you were sort of like in the brunt of that, just in terms of like the production of things. It's a tough thing to get through. I've known people in other channels who have gone through life hurdles that have like really stifled their ability to get things out for the channel. And like there's that sort of mental balance of trying to say like, okay, I'm concerned about what we can do for the channel, but at some point, like my concern for myself has to sort of supersede that, because I can't just like focus on like videos when like I need to just focus on like make sure my home is around and stuff. Can you like run us through like just what that experience was and like what went into like the sort of progression of like understanding like how severe it was getting and what it meant for the channel?
Yeah, so I knew Hurricane Helene was coming. I didn't know it was coming for me up in Georgia. I told the Florida boys to be safe. I thought it was going to hit them directly, but it ended up hitting where I live. And I think when it hit, it was like a category 1 or 2. And there are a lot of trees in Georgia where I am. So tons and tons of trees got ripped out of the ground and power lines broken everywhere. My whole city was in a state of emergency. And I was without power for 9 days. So during that time, I was communicating with the boys as best I could when I could charge my phone, letting them know, I don't know when I'm going to be back. And since I'm on almost all the reactions on the channel and I edit most of the content on the channel, we couldn't really keep that going. So in the meantime, the boys started streaming games and engaging with the community. We got a lot of people joining our Discord. They kept me updated. That kind of boosted my spirits in such a difficult time. And the real hard part was after I got my power back on, I didn't have internet for like the whole month, like almost a 30-day period.
Right.
So I still couldn't get back to work for a while. But once I did eventually get back, we kind of just slowly got back into it. And now we're back up to full speed where we were. The channel it kind of bottomed out. If you look at the subscriber chart, we were getting almost 100 per day. And then it dipped down to 0 at one point for a day. And now it bounced back up. And now we get like 50, around 50 a day, about half. We're trying to get back into the algorithm. We had a lot of people in the comments telling us, I didn't see this video on my homepage. What happened? That this didn't show up in my notifications. So YouTube just thinks we're doing a bad job. It's nothing malicious. It's just the way that the algorithm works. It's like you didn't upload for this amount of time. So channel bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like I understand like just the stress of that, trying to, sit tight, when you really have nothing to do, you can like sort of just like, wait and see how things pan out. Did you have any sort of thoughts of like, how you wanted to bounce back once you got, got the internet and electricity back, just putting things in place of like, what you want to just hit the ground running with?
Yeah, I was thinking about the series we had going on the channel and just resuming them. I think the first person I talked with it about was Blake in a Discord call right when I got internet. And I said, how can we do this and, get running smoothly again?
Right. And then right after that, I think was when Milton hit. And like Igli, where you were getting caught up in that, right?
Yeah, so after Corey was dealing with his strife, like about a week after, Milton came in for round 2. Luckily, there wasn't a round 3, but that one was a little bit more concerning because it was like lining up to hit us directly. It luckily didn't come to be, but there was still a lot of damage to the point where Kojo, Matthew, and I like all evacuated. That pretty much took us out of like streaming for about a week. So I think Blake might have been doing some stuff in the meantime, like to kind of keep people aware of what was going on. And then when we got back, there was like a few days where we're like without internet. So nothing in comparison to what Corey was dealing with, but it still took us out of commission, and we're trying to recover from that.
And yeah, again, it's hard to sort of comprehend, just the varying levels of stress that comes with like a natural disaster or something like that. I guess collectively for the both of you, what's the progression I think you could say to anyone who might be facing like a really large obstruction in their life like that, and just like how you want to take care of yourself versus your concern for the channel and like the content.
Right, you gotta take care of yourself first and your loved ones, people that you care about, and after that then you can get back to your hobby if it's reaction videos, or if like in my case if it's your full-time job, then you can worry about that. But definitely yourself, your safety, your health, all of those things come first.
Totally. Yeah, we do have some final questions we have here to wrap up. The main question I always ask, I think this is part of like I think what we're talking about here, is over the years with the channel, what has been the most consistent obstacle that you've faced with it?
So Corey probably will agree with this, but we have a lot of people. That's good, and that's also bad. Scheduling like managing everyone's time, making sure,
Right.
seeing who's available for what, trying to plan each day. It becomes very difficult to get an idea of what the week ahead is going to look like. Of we're doing this night, this night, and we have to basically pivot on, okay, so and so is not going to be available. I'm not going to name any names, but you know who you are. We have to like pivot to something else. We have to make sure we're not going to fall behind on anything. Unfortunately, things happen. Paranormal activities on the back burner, but like since this is still, for majority of us, like a part-time thing, it's not our full-time income. We have other jobs, and everyone has very unique circumstances with their schedule. It makes getting stuff done difficult, and that's basically like, oftentimes we're not going to know what the plan is for like until a given day of work we're going to do. So it's been a consistent obstacle even before the disasters, this entire year, since we've kind of full sent on putting out more and more content. Maintaining that output has become very difficult, and we often have to like have secondary plans when, if they like, I'm kind of rambling a bit, but like if we have like a movie versus a TV show is like a longer commitment. It's a weekly commitment. That person, we have to record weekly with that person, and if their schedule, like in their schedule, can be very difficult to accommodate, to where things might have to be like delayed, which is unfortunate because it kind of kills like a momentum in some regards, but it is what it is. I don't hold it against anyone. It's just life.
Yeah. It can be difficult for sure. Again, like you said, also just being remote and just being so separated from each other in terms of like, state lines and stuff like that. It could definitely be a large obstacle. But also, how do you feel you both have personally grown over the years with the channel?
I think we're both introverts, right, Igli?
Yeah. So
just kind of getting out of our shell, interacting with our community, having fun on the channel, letting loose, also growing as reactors, just giving more of ourselves to the reaction, being more comfortable on camera, being comfortable enough to cry even at times. That's a tough one because it's different than like if you're watching something alone. Whereas when you have the camera on, you just constantly are aware of that, and you don't want to, look a certain way on camera. Maybe, I'm sure Igli can relate that, and our editing as well. I feel like we'll get back to that word that you mentioned from earlier, evolution. We've been constantly evolving over the years with the channel.
Yeah, I think it's not even like not wanting to cry in front of the camera. It's like you're in a different mental state, where like you have lights shining in your eyes. Like I can name a very specific example: Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I watched that with Blake on the channel. It's a very emotional finale for the show. I was emotional, but I did not cry. Literally, like the weekend after, I binge watched the show again with Corey, and I was a sobbing wreck at the end. But I do agree 100% with Corey, with what Corey said, basically giving more of yourself on camera, revealing you like having your like your real personality come to flourish. I have probably started to say more out of pocket things on camera over the past year compared to previous years, and I guess to also parallel the editing aspect of it, I think everyone has their own flavor of like how they like to do edits, but the mindset I kind of go in with, like, these are my friends, these are my boys, I love them, and I kind of want to show their best sides on camera. I want to like have their personalities flourish, so other people can get that same feeling I get from them, as well as like maintaining like the integrity of like what we're reacting to.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, is to like, to help to elevate the others and to make sure that it's a collective experience that people can appreciate. And then the final question is, beyond any monetary or financial value, what is the most rewarding aspect of the channel for you?
Doing it with the boys.
doing it with the boys and having our first time reactions to a show or movie kind of immortalized. Like we can go back and watch them experience that moment again. I know Blake is very fond of his Attack on Titan reactions, especially to the finale. So just having those recorded is great.
Another thing that's very rewarding for the channel that I've come to, I guess, greatly appreciate is the community that's come out of it. You know, it's been growing, and I try to make time. I've tried to make more time recently to look through our YouTube comments, and because these people are supporting us, also Patreon comments as well. You kind of have to dodge spoilers, but also like looking through our Discord and kind of seeing something that's kind of grown, and like it's time kind of moves fast when you're so busy and every day is kind of stacked. So like you kind of turn around and see where this has kind of grown into something like you didn't really initially, like you couldn't initially like expect. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's heartwarming in a way to see something come.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, and again, like just seeing, you know, the reception that you guys have had, you know, over the years with the material, and also, as we mentioned, just like the, you know, positivity that outpoured from everyone, you know, over the last year, you know, with the hurricanes and everything. It's great. It's great to have that sort of support for any sort of creative endeavor that you can, you know, delve yourself into, because it's hard to put yourself out there and think like anyone's going to care, you know, about like what our, you know, inside is. And you definitely have fostered a great community of people who are definitely there for you guys. So it's good to see. We do have a final questionnaire that we do for everyone here on the show. Just 10 questions down the line for both of you. So you can both answer. The first question is just what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Corey?
Breaking Bad.
Of course, good one.
I'm going to say Avatar: Last Airbender.
Also fantastic. What is your favorite film of all time?
I think I always said Spider-Man 2, like the OG with Tobey Maguire growing up, but after having this channel and watching so many films, I might have to change my answer to Kill Bill Volume 1.
I think my answer, it might be recency bias, but it's a banger. The Lord of the Rings like trilogy. I don't know if I could pick a specific movie, maybe a third one, but just that whole journey, I don't know, has kind of reshaped my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's usually what people say. It's like Lord of the Rings, just the whole thing counts as one film. Yeah. And have you guys seen Kill Bill Volume 2 yet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's my preferred one of the two, but yeah, they're both really great. I love both. The next question is what stresses you out?
Life.
Yeah, life, scheduling with the boys, working when we fall behind on reactions and I have to edit like 2 videos in one day and make a bunch of thumbnails.
I think outside of work, like I'm pretty introverted. I prefer to keep to like I like to stick to what I know, but I also want to make an effort to grow as a person and try new things. So trying out anything new for the first time, it's very anxiety inducing, but I want to have those new experiences as well.
Yeah, I feel that. I definitely feel that. I'm also naturally introverted, so yeah, it's hard for me to get out. That's luckily what my girlfriend drags me out to do every week or so. What helps you relax?
Lo-fi music.
Did you have anything else?
That was it.
Okay, I like working out and watching like live streams of content creators. I really enjoy the working out aspect. Like I want to be physically healthy, and if it's a method of kind of zoning out. I think doing like cardio or runs, very monotonous activities, causes your mind to wander because you want to keep yourself distracted. So it allows me time to mentally process things, and by doing it afterwards, I come out feeling better having done it.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that's good. It's good advice. What is a hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
Video
games. Every spare hour I get, if I think it was last night we were playing Marvel Rivals Igli with Blake. Mm-hmm. Yeah, any free time I like to put into gaming.
Movies and TV as an art form is great. I really enjoy video games as a method of storytelling as well. Like playing single player narratively driven games offers like a very unique experience, and that's pretty much like what I tend to do in a lot of my free time. Uh, and some of my favorite things have like some of my favorite pieces of media are video games and the stories they tell.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely one of mine as well. I haven't had a chance just because I've been so busy this year. I'm envious of how many games have come out and people have had the chance to play. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite experiences just to go through a good narrative, like you said, and just like experience it on a different level because it's so vicarious of how you interact with it. What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Jon Snow.
You look like him.
Let's go in.
Thank you.
Let's keep it on the topic of Game of Thrones. Theon Greyjoy, very controversial character, but there's a common trait like in him that I have come to appreciate in a lot of different characters in media, and that's like it's kind of two things, like a character who's very weak-minded, powerless at times, and trying to see how they like navigate through the world and hardships. That man struggled heavily, and then the aspect of someone who's done something wrong and is trying to be a better person after it, seeing that sort of redemption arc come to fruition, like amidst this struggling, becomes some of the most like satisfying storytelling points to me, and I think it can be applied to a lot of different characters. I don't want to spoil all my favorite shows, but it's something I very much come to like.
I definitely agree. Yeah, definitely Jon and Theon, I think, have probably some of the best arcs in like the entire show. So I think it's fair to say. What is your guilty pleasure, a show or film?
I think before we started reactions on the channel and I had more time to watch things myself, I used to watch the Chicago series, so Chicago Fire, Med, and PD. And I would also watch reality TV like America's Got Talent every year, but I just haven't had time to keep up with it lately.
Right.
I would say, I don't know if it's a guilty pleasure, Adam Sandler films. I love the man. Not every film he does is great, but I don't know. It's familiar. I don't know. I like going back. I like watching through the different films he's done.
Yeah, I can definitely see both of those, especially for reality TV. I know a lot of people say that. I think for reaction content specifically, reality TV is such a good palate cleanser because your brain doesn't have to be switched on the same way to interact with it and engage with it. And so it's a good break. What show or film gave you your favorite reaction experience with the channel?
I kind of feel like I have to say Game of Thrones. But I think I'll say Game of Thrones, I guess, mainly for myself, but from the perspective of a group reaction, the Lord of the Rings films were just such a blast because, I don't know, just the jokes we had and like the kind of like the back and forth in banter. I guess to say that as well, Vampire Diaries is very fun as well. The banter, it's one part the show and part two, like, so the second part, the banter we have.
Yeah. Right. I think for me, Haunting of Hill House, getting into that with Igli, Blake, and Kojo, it was just a lot of fun and a new experience.
Yeah. And then that opens up the Flaniverse in general, which is just such a rewarding experience to have. So I'm looking forward to you guys finishing House of Usher in the coming weeks. What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to again for the first time on camera?
Attack on Titan.
Yeah, you didn't really get that chance. Oh, I guess you partially did. Yeah, you saw part of it when you were watching.
Yeah, I saw the first 2 seasons. But I would just love the opportunity to react to that again for the first time because it's so good, like the twists and turns and reveals.
Yeah. I kind of am with you there. Attack on Titan is a show you watch for the first time, and it is you don't go back. I wasn't on the reaction myself, but I was watching vicariously through the boys and Blake.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what it's there for, to experience it again with everyone. And the final question is, what advice would you give to your past selves if you can go back in time when you first started the channel?
I would say you're going to make mistakes. It's going to suck. You're going to beat yourself up about it and be in your head a lot. but you're going to get there regardless. So don't stress out over every little thing. It's going to come together in the end as long as you're trying and doing your best. You might have days where you slip up, and that's fine. All it matters is like you continue trying.
Yeah, I agree with Igli. I would say trust the process. You know, there's going to be ups and downs, but if this is something you want to do, just stay consistent, interact with the audience, find your niche, what, you know, is successful for the channel. And hopefully it's a mix of what your audience wants to see and what you enjoy reacting to.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Igli, Corey, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you guys coming on today. It's been such a blast catching up with you guys and your work over the years. Just this past few months that I've discovered you, and I'm so happy to have you guys here today.
It was a pleasure being on here. Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah,
of course. Where can we find you guys on YouTube or social media or anywhere otherwise?
YouTube.com/Raggedy Pack, or is it /C/Raggedy Pack? And then pretty much any social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Raggedy Pack is our username. We have a Discord server as well. That's probably where we interact with our members the most. And if you go to any of our videos, the link to that is in the description.
Perfect. Same here. You can find me at Necrotic across social media. You can find us at Passionfruit for us across social media. You can find links to our Discord and Patreon in the description below. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
See ya.
See ya.